Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Organizing to Victory podcast, where we're talking garage politics. On today's episode, we have Laura and Linda from Moms Demand Action, a gun sense advocacy group that is actively going to Tallahassee to fight for strengthening gun regulations. But right now, our Florida legislature is actively deregulating gun laws that are making our homes, our communities, and our families less safe. We get into all of the disproportionately marginalized communities that are impacted by gun violence and ways that you and I can take action today. Here's my conversation with Moms Demand Action. All right, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome my special guests. We have Laura Buck, who is here from Moms Demand Action, a local chapter here in Central Florida. And then we have Linda Coffin, who is the co-chair of the League of Women Voters Gun Violence Prevention Group. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to learn about your stories. I see you everywhere, and I hear all about the incredible work that you're doing, the advocacy, fighting these terrible bills that are actively eroding our rights as just citizens here trying to be safe, keep our kids safe, in under the name of the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. So I really want to dissect what good gun violence programs look like and what good gun reform laws could look like while still making sure that we're upholding the Constitution, because everyone wants to throw around the Constitution when they want to argue their point. But I think today we can really talk about different legislation and different programs that can keep us all safe. So first, let's just start with both of you telling a little bit about your background and how you got into this advocacy work.
Sure. I got into this advocacy work slow but steady. Of course, we see gun violence on the news. The mass shootings get our attention. But as I've learned more, I kind of increased my involvement because it's the statistics for everyday gun violence that really hits home. An average of 130 people a day are killed by gun violence in our country, and it being the leading cause of children, getting the leading cause of death for children in our country too, is what really sealed the deal. Of course, waking up to it because of Trayvon Martin, especially happening in our backyard, and then slowly, reaching out to moms, just becoming, a member, getting involved on their website and stuff, and seeing what they do, participating in first mailing postcards and stuff. That's how it kind of started. And then, as each incident happened, Uvalde, Pulse was before that, another horrible incident in our backyard. And the support kind of grew, and it really hit home a few years ago when I was volunteering at my kids' school, and I volunteered every day, or not every day, every week at a certain time for their reading time and stuff. And so did my weekly volunteer hours. And one time I was there and we happened to be in a lockdown drill. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time I was in a lockdown drill because I didn't grow up this way. And I realized that because I didn't grow up this way, it is possible for my kids to still not grow up this way. So seeing little kids hide for their lives, and they, in first grade, were aware of what the lockdown drills are. I only knew it was a lockdown drill because we weren't leaving the classroom. I initially thought it was a fire drill, and I'm used to those, growing up. Mm-hmm. And yes, you want to stay safe from fire, but staying safe from firearms is not something kids should have to think about at school. And so that got me even more involved. Mm-hmm. Got me going to school board meetings, got me advocating for safety elements and new things for our addition volunteers to watch a safety video. Now it's required for OCPS addition volunteers to kind of know the different levels of safety precautions they take in schools. So that way we're aware when lockdown drills happen and why. there's a program that Moms Demand Action helps support, which is Be Smart. And it's all about educating parents of safe firearm storage. And so once I got involved more with moms, I really gravitated towards that program and was a lead for that program for a while. And then, kept going because unfortunately gun violence doesn't stop. And yeah, the more it happens, it's the more of a reason to keep going,
Right.
to keep fighting.
Right. Thank you for sharing your story. Yeah. Linda, how did you get involved?
Well, I have to first say the first time I met Laura, she was at a school board meeting with us with Moms Demand Action, and the news came up and wanted to do an interview. She stepped right up and she did a great interview. So we really are glad that she kept going with that. My story started probably before y'all were born. About 27 years ago, I decided to become a foster parent. And it changed my life completely. As I got older, I started finding out more about what was happening in their communities, and it was very difficult. Then Parkland happened, and then that started waking me up into what's going on with the children that have so many traumatic backgrounds. How are we helping them, and how can we stop the shootings from occurring? Also, one of my little babies had gone back to his birth family, and he was in middle school, and he posted a picture of himself with a gun to his head. I then moved to Orlando and was trying to figure out something to do. I'd learned a lot about advocacy for advocating for foster children, and I met Moms Demand Action. And so I put all of that together, and that's how I started with Moms Demand. I was a state lead for a little bit, state legislative lead for a little while, and then now I'm with League of Women Voters. And again, we just have to keep our voices loud that we need to have better laws to stop this madness.
Right. Well, I'd love to talk a little bit first before we dive into the state legislature today. I'd love to talk a little bit about the history of gun reform and policies, good or bad, in Florida. So, Florida is kind of looked at as this Republican supermajority controlled for over 20 years Republican state, but it hasn't always been necessarily all loose regulations. Like there used to be bipartisan support for these policies.
Well, definitely what happened that was good out of a very horrible thing was after Parkland. Right. And the students, particularly and the families, came up in masses to Tallahassee to talk about what changes can we make. And it was bipartisan decisions to make some really good changes to our laws. And so that is something that we are grateful for, but now we are fighting not to go backwards on that. Also, the Stand Your Ground law changed not that long ago, and it made it so that you had to prove that it used to be you had to prove that you had no other way to get out of a shooting other than to shoot to protect yourself. Now you don't have to prove that anymore, and that means that anybody can say, I was trying to protect myself. What else do you think, Laura?
I think the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act and the bills that collectively were passed with that was a beacon, and it was very hopeful, at least that seeing our state legislator take action. And then also it's supported by the governor at the time, a Republican governor, Rick Scott. So it's, I think that was, it was amazing that they were able to actually hear the victims and the families and what they were advocating for and make these changes. These changes have been in our system for, years now, and they have not barred anybody, from their constitutional rights. So the fact that we're here, discussing this again and repealing some of these is a little scary.
Right. Well, we're recording this weeks in advance. Legislative session's going on right now. We're actually recording this on February 8th. So by the time that this comes out, it might be close to session sunsetting. this session in particular, I've heard from Republican lobbyists, from Democrat lobbyists, from different organizations that there is like a gridlock situation happening where the special interest backed legislators that get corporate money have been choosing to listen to their donors more than they're choosing to listen to the people. There was a time when even if it was a Republican controlled or Democrat controlled legislature, it didn't really matter. People going up in mass could sway elected officials. But it feels like right now we're having a really hard time seeing that. It feels like gridlock. Mm-hmm. So I just want to talk a little bit about what bills are moving and what has been done to try and sway legislators. Maybe we can start with the age of gun ownership.
Yes, definitely the gun manufacturers are wanting to find new ways to sell guns because there are more guns than people in the United States now. So they got to be creative and find new ways. And one of the ways they think is if they lower the age to 18 to purchase a long gun. Federally, you cannot purchase a handgun until you're 21, but you could purchase, in some states, you can purchase a long gun. So we have been fighting for this for a couple of years. It is one of the bills that was passed after Parkland. So those people are coming back every single year, having to reopen those wounds and talk about it and beg them, please do not do this, because all of our studies, all of our data shows that this is a very dangerous thing to do, that people's brains do not develop until they're, I think, 25 now. And so that alone tells us we know that kids are more impulsive. There are many reasons why this law should not be passed. It did pass all the way through the House. We had tremendous people, like some of the legislators, they were Democrats, were making amendments and really fighting hard, giving good reason. And the biggest thing that got me was they said 80% of Floridians do not want this. But instead of listening to their constituents, they voted for it. And I think it was pretty much through party lines. But it went to the Senate. The Senate has stalled on it. Thank goodness Senator Pasadomo has never been for it, and she's in charge of the committee that it went to, so we're very grateful for that. But we shouldn't have to do this year after year.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, especially when last year they just went through that horrific shooting at FSU. It's like, do we need to have constant reminders of why we have these laws in place? I shudder to think, because unfortunately that means people are losing their lives. And just to think that, we want to go ahead and allow something like this for someone that age, where at least, in this case, he did bring the firearm from home. And we know statistically, again, that's average for shootings at schools, unfortunately. And so, it just, again, having to remember our recent history and remind them of what happened and why we have these in place. It is very unfortunate for the victims and the survivors to have to go through this again.
Yeah, and I just wonder how involved legislators are in the writing and moving, actually drafting these bills, or is it just the lobby that's handing them the language and they're just moving it straight through without any edits?
I agree with you, Lee, because the answers that we get on why they should, of course, it's our Second Amendment God-given right. The other is because single mothers, now this is 18 to 21-year-old that have to be single mothers, need a long gun to protect themselves. There are so few single mothers living by themselves, you can't afford it. And so that doesn't make any sense. Another one actually said that kids age 18 to 21 need to be able to shoot for their food. And I'm like, no, they use Uber Eats, they use DoorDash. They're not out there shooting for their food. Hunters might go out and shoot. And that's what I would say to them is, yes, your sons and daughters hunt, and that's great. And you know how they're trained. You know how that you make sure that they know how to lock up their guns. You know how to use their guns. But we're talking about all 18 to 21-year-olds, everyone. And they're not all sitting in homes where they're going to be, very few of them would be sitting in those homes.
And to Linda's point, if you have trained them and stuff, right now it's still legal in this state for adults to gift a rifle to an 18-year-old. So that kind of puts that vetting, that personal responsibility, into play. If you are gifting a firearm to your kid, you would hope that they are trained and that it will be secure. And so those taking kind of that element out of place and allowing them to do that direct purchase is very dangerous.
So that bill was House Bill 133. You also had mentioned to me prior to recording House Bill 757, which is the school safety bill. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. The school safety bill is going through the House right now pretty rapidly and is getting all yeses. And the reason why it's getting all yeses is because there are a lot of good things in that bill. You cannot fire a firearm 1,000 feet away from the school when there's any activities going on. The more training on how to prepare for these situations. There are just a lot of good things in it. But what's bothering us is that it's expanding the Guardian program to go into the colleges and universities. We have fought and continue to fight because they did expand the Guardian program from K through 12. The Guardian program would allow a school to hire someone, a teacher, just a school, somebody else that works at the school, or just some
private security.
Private security, thank you. And they get 144 hours of training from the sheriff's office, which in the beginning sounds good, but that's all they get. And they don't have immediate access to the police department. So if something happened, like our SROs can call immediately and get backup. There are just a lot of reasons why we do not like the Guardian program, and for them to expand it into the colleges and universities when they already have school police there. Let's strengthen the school police. That's what we're asking for, is that they strengthen the school police. We know that we need to have police officers there, but we do not need professors and other people carrying guns in the schools.
Yes, and this has been an evolving bill too, because initially they wrote that anybody on college campuses 18 and up could 21 and up could carry. And that scared us. That put us into action because, yes, of course, again, it's like mentioning the FSU shooting from last year. These things are pretty recent and we don't need to have more guns because if so, then we would be the safest nation, on this earth right now.
Right.
So let's try a little bit less guns and see what happens. And so, this new iteration has at least toned it down and restricted on who is allowed to campus carry. And so it's evolved in a better direction, but it's still not where we want to go.
I mean, where are these bills even coming from? Like, why is the natural response to a shooting? I mean, UCF and Rollins both had cases where they found explosives and rifles in someone who was planning to do a shooting recently. Why is the response something so, what I feel is just counterproductive when there's so much proof that there are better methods of reform?
Oh, that's tough to say, but I think they're running out of excuses. Yeah. And so it's kind of doubling down. Because I mean, everybody's under the understanding that we do have a lot of firearms in our country, and we do have a problem with firearms and gun violence in our country, because those firearms cause gun violence, not on their own. It requires a person to shoot it. But yes, and so they're just kind of dancing around the real problems. Any other insights,
Sitting
Linda?
on the committees, it's really mind-blowing when the people get up there and talk about their God-given right, and it's Second Amendment right, and without any safety measures at all. They will not even, the good bills that we have that go on every single year, secure storage, that seems to us to be a no-brainer. They won't even touch it. They won't even hear it. Our own Carlos Guillermo Smith every single year has banned assault weapons. And, that one's not going to get heard. But you talk to them about assault weapons and they tell us the description that we don't know what an assault weapon is. Well, I sat down for 30 minutes with a Republican lawmaker. He told me and explained. So now I understand the difference. But I said to him, okay, maybe it is, one's a little bit longer, one's a little bit shorter, one clicks this way or that way, but they all still kill a lot of people in a short period of time. We do not need that. You don't need that to go hunting. So those are things that are very confusing to us, but I know the power is there, and we do know that a lot of it comes from the gun manufacturers and the NRA.
Craziness. What bills have you all been going up to try and get either written, passed, moving? What are some examples of some bills?
My favorite one is from a situation that happened right here in Orlando. 3 years ago, our little Tyona Majors was in her home, and a shooter came into the home and shot her, and then went down the hall and shot her mother. Her mother survived, but Tyona, who we call Yaya, did not. So we have the Yaya Alert Bill, which is Senator Jones and our own Rashawn Young's bill. It would require that there would be a 3-mile radius around every school, childcare center, community center, where if there is an imminent danger or an active shooter, that the police would notify the school. Had that happened, Yaya would still be here, because they would have told her mother when she went to pick her up from school, there is an active shooter in the area. And her mother would not have gone to take a nap. She wouldn't have let Yaya let the dog out. The dad would not have left the house to go get Gatorade for her gymnastics. And the little girl would still be here. So we are begging them, although it's getting late into session, we do feel like we made some really good grounds this year, and that we will hopefully be able to pass it next year, which we know with certain bills it takes a couple of times to push it. But it's a great bill, and it comes right from our area.
Yes, I believe that bill is a great representation of how to take an incident, a horrific incident, and enact a change that will hopefully save future kids and future families from the same heartbreak. With Moms Demand Action, we were recently up in Tallahassee for our Advocacy Day just a couple of weeks ago, and we support sensitive locations for open carry, which is HB 321. So with the state Supreme Court decision of repealing our open carry laws, it has now allowed open carry in the state of Florida. And we want to make sure that this bill represents, it would kind of amend the Florida code to apply current sensitive locations to the orders of open carry of firearms. So making sure that we kind of close those loopholes and don't allow firearms in places where they shouldn't be, such as parks and schools and things like that, and kind of intermediary locations where we need to make sure our elected officials and people are also safe. So,
I mean, the day that moved through the Supreme Court, Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings sent an email to all the staff, basically alerting us that people can now bring in, rifles into the Board of County Commission meetings, but the staff was not allowed to carry. So I thought that was very interesting because, if you've ever been to a Board of County Commission meeting, it can get rather contentious. And to think that we have security to try and identify where there's weapons and for that money to be used to hopefully keep people safe. Now we're seeing that they have to completely disregard those steps, those processes, and allow someone to just open carry into the chambers is very scary as well.
That's really interesting, Lee, because I didn't realize that they could not, like a private business can put a sign on no firearms allowed here, but because it is public, they cannot do that. Wow.
Yeah.
And I know on the website of the Capitol, it'll tell you guns are not allowed. But if you ask the security guards when you go in there, they say, yeah, we have to allow it if they let us know they have one. Well, duh, they're going through security, so they know they've had one. But I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because that is a place you would think they would want to be more careful in the county commission office.
You would think, but
I think they have that false sense of security because of the majority, you know.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate and very scary, especially with the recent attacks on elected officials in our country. I think, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Well, I always think about what other bills would be the dream bills that we could get passed. And in my mind, red flag laws would be a great first step, especially since there's folks that, might have a violent past. And if they could be restricted in any way specifically, I think that would be a great first step. But it looks like there's an IRPA policy that is under threat right now.
Yeah, actually, we do have pretty good red flag laws in Florida right now, and the law enforcement really likes it. But, and I believe it is HB 6029, they want to repeal the risk. And because again, they don't feel anyone should be without a gun at any time. But what that would do is if you knew someone was a risk to themselves or others, you got the police involved, they decided they should take the firearm away as it is now, then that would take that away. And that makes absolutely no sense. I do not know do you know how that's going, Laura,
I actually haven't seen if it's being seen by any other committees and stuff. But yes, we know it would undo some really strong safety. This law is here kind of as a last line for people to at least have a resource to get firearms taken away when they know that this person is a threat. This is a method where the judge has to have a signed order. So this isn't something, that's willy-nilly. The process does take a little while, so it's not instant, but it's designed so that way rights are not infringed upon. This is making sure there is hard evidence. You work with law enforcement and judges that have this done. And we work with 2 local community partners that utilize this bill on different fronts. One is Harbor House for domestic violence.
Yeah.
And the other is the Association of Suicide Prevention, because, in both of those cases, having this our ERPO laws really serve as a safety net for people who are in danger, again, to themselves or others. So why you would want to repeal something like this? I believe it's been used over 9,000 times in our state to remove firearms from people over the years that it's been enacted. So it is a proven safety net.
What are some other bills that you wish could be written in future sessions, or any ideas that you have, or that any policies that you've seen happen in other parts of the world that you wish we could really push here?
Well, again, we're very lucky to have Representative Maxwell Frost as our representative, and he's a gun violence prevention champion, as we all know. He has a bill that again, it's a no-brainer. When the police or the law enforcement get a gun and take it away from someone, they're supposed to destroy that gun so it can't ever be reused again. But what's happening in a lot of areas is that they only destroy a small part of the gun. Then the gun is resold. Someone gets the piece that has been broken and fixes it and then sells it on the black market. This is called, and then they're used in a lot of different crimes. So he has already proposed that bill. And I think it would be really save a lot of lives if we could get that bill passed. Mm-hmm. The other one that we keep going is the secure storage in vehicles. All the law enforcement are going to tell you that there are more guns stolen out of vehicles than anywhere else. Why can't we get a law that says you have to lock up your gun in your vehicle? So, because again, they're used in crimes. So those are two that are really strong in my mind, but they already are bills. It's just we can't get them passed.
Right.
And those are throughout the nation. Sometimes in bluer states, you can get the secure storage laws passed. And so it does depend on where you live.
But yeah, federally, we know it's going to be a challenge, to say the least. To say the least.
I mean, like, secure storage to me sounds like a no-brainer. It sounds like something that someone who would own a gun would want there to be some form of regulation across the board. Because I feel like if you own a gun, not only do you want to make sure it's out of the wrong hands, but you also want to make sure that everyone else in your family is going to be protected, especially if you have little children in the house. And if the government is overseeing that process and making sure that, they're doing home checks to make sure that, you are actually locking away, or that you have, preventable security measures, then you could actually tie the licensing to those measures, so that if you want to get a gun license or a permit, you would have to have these secure storage measures in your home. That's the way that I believe Japan does it.
That's awesome.
And I think, we're definitely surpassing Japan and most major countries for the most deaths every year from gun violence. Any other bills that you just wish, I mean, first of all, I just bought my first gun. After the election, I was like, oh, okay, we're headed into tyranny here. So I'm going to make sure that if our federal government is actively giving white supremacists military gear and armor and weaponry, that I'm at least going to be proficient in something that I might need in case there's a civil unrest. But I didn't want to just get a weapon and just have it in my house without proficient training. So I started going to a trainer, and incredible human being. Every single one of the men at that training center all wished that there was more regulation. Every single one of them. They said that they see people come in and they just are playing with it like it's a toy, shooting like they see in the movies, and not taking it as seriously as like owning and driving a car. And so it was very interesting because it was way, way too easy for me to walk in there with no background, never touching a gun before, and being able to buy one. And I mean, I did have to wait 2 days and take like a very small entry level class. I mean, just like 5 PowerPoint slides in 20 minutes. And I had to shoot 10 bullets on a target, and they had to fall somewhere on the target in order to pass. Okay. So like very, very, very low entry level. And so I guess in my question of wanting to understand more policies that you guys talk about or hopefully see championed in other parts of the country, the bar is very low for where we need to start here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, permitless carry happened a couple years ago. We were up in Tallahassee fighting that. And we knew it was going to be dangerous when you took away that element of safety and training, and having that, permit at least required you to be trained in some order and fashion in order, to make sure that, like you said, you're not showing up at these ranges and just, playing around with it. Because again, these aren't toys. And like you mentioned, with a license for driving a vehicle, we now give that more safety regulations than we do with firearms.
Absolutely. I think people, if they're not made to do something, they're not going to necessarily do it, unfortunately. If it's not the law and you don't have to, then I'll get around to it later, but then they don't get around to it. You are very responsible, so you did the right thing and took the extra step. And that extra step, I think, should be everybody's step, is to have a real good, solid training on how to use the gun. And again, when I sit down with some of the Republican lawmakers and they tell me about their children who do hunting and all of that, they tell me all of the incredible training that they have. And that's what we would want anybody to have if they had a firearm. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Required.
So, yes, required. And I love the fact that Japan goes and looks to see how you've got it locked up. I mean, when I was a foster mom, they came and checked up how we locked up the toothpaste, because that's dangerous for children. Everything had to be locked up. So I think that makes total sense to me. Use some of the ICE agents to go look to see how people lock up their guns instead of...
We know this is a problem.
Now.
Yeah. I mean, even so much that Everytown for Gun Safety came out with a firearm training class just for this case where it's like, you feel like you want to have some, self-defense and protection. You're new to firearms and they have online training, and they're working to expand that because of that case. And so we don't, we're not for taking guns, but we do want less guns. And then we want responsible gun ownership. Like you mentioned, everybody that you spoke with at the range, it's like the average gun owner does want to have some kind of safety precautions for themselves and others. The whole reason why you have it is to keep your family safe, right? But unfortunately, we have some that are below the average. And like you said, the bar is trying to be dropped, especially on a federal level, with the concealed carry mandate and trying to enact, the lowest state laws for everybody federally, which we know it will be such a danger. So we're happy just that it's been kind of quiet on the federal level lately, because, I think people are seeing with their own eyes, the effects of gun violence. So we know we don't want more of it.
Yes. And, my favorite part of my trainings, because I paid to get more trained because I just it was not a requirement. Like, I want to be very clear that the training that I did get was for the concealed weapons permit that was optional. And the, extra trainings were just to increase my own personal proficiency and not required. But something that I thought was super important was my coach would basically talk me through different scenarios of de-escalation. And that, for me, was the most valuable piece, because he would explain every single step before you would pull out a gun and run through, okay, so there's an active shooter. What's behind that person? What is in front of that person? Are there any moving targets around that person? Can you communicate to them to try and de-escalate first? Can you leave the situation and not continue to keep yourself at risk? Is someone actively in pursuit of being hunted down by this person? Like, we ran through every scenario prior to, and this is when you pull out your gun, which I think if everyone had that opportunity, we would have less reactionary incidents. But one other point I wanted to bring up is that sometimes, no matter what you train for, accidents still happen. I mean, literally this week in Lake Nona, there was an officer who accidentally discharged his firearm. right there at the school, searching for another weapon that I guess a student was bringing into the campus. So I think accidents can still happen even with the most proficient training. I mean, you're literally playing with fire when you bring more guns into a situation. And so I'm really, worried about us just continuing to open the floodgates.
And that reminds me of another bill that I don't have the number of that, but they're trying to make it so you cannot sue the gun manufacturers if there is an accident. There's a particular gun, the SIG Sawyer, I think it's called, that has 110 times just gone off on its own. See, I don't know if that was what happened in Lake Nona or what, because I don't know what type of gun it was, but they're trying to make a law in Florida that you can't sue the gun manufacturer. It's like, come on, if there's a problem that needs to be fixed, then let's fix it and not give them immunity to everything. Right. So that was another law that that's in the works right now. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about different community partners in the area that you all collaborate with and some of the initiatives that they work on with you.
We have great community partners in our area. I think in Orlando area, we're very lucky with our legislators that are working with us, and they talk with us, they listen to us, and they give us advice. They're really awesome. And that's the same with our community partners. Yaya Strong is one of our favorites. Again, that was from Little Tyona Majors. They do things like feed the homeless. They have backpack giveaways. They have cleanups and cleanups. Why would you do cleanups? But we have found that if you keep areas cleaned in the environment, that makes people feel better about, I'm speaking to the choir with Lee here, but that would make people feel better about where they live. And so that's one way that people can involve is to volunteer or donate to them. Tubs is another one, the Umbrella Brigade. Oh my goodness, they're very small. They are in Seminole County, but they come into Orange County to, again, help with the homeless situation, help with getting food. Right now, they're taking food to people's houses that are afraid to go out grocery shopping. They're afraid to leave their homes. And so they're just delivering these things to them. So that's another one. Las Amilas, another one of our favorites in Pine Hills. He does everything. He is part of the Credible Messenger program, which is another one with Ruben Saldana. They do like boxing for the kids in the neighborhood so they can box out a lot of their frustrations, and they take them to, this is so cool because they take them outside of their area. New Image as well is another one in Paramore. They take them outside of their neighborhood. And one young man said that once he got outside and saw there was something else he could do besides be the man on the street corner and sell drugs and have guns, he could actually do more. So those are really important places that you can donate as well as volunteer. What else is there? Let Life Live, Village of Love is mothers who have lost their children to gun violence or loved ones to gun violence. They're an incredible group, but it's really easy to volunteer with them.
Yeah. Well, these are all really good nonprofits and organizations that we'll be putting in the description of this video to hopefully highlight. What are some other ways that people can get involved? And obviously call your legislator. I feel like every single post on my feed has been for some other crisis that we're asking people to make calls. But what are some other ways that people can be hands-on right now?
Oh gosh, it really does make a difference to contact, your legislators and stuff, whether it's local, state, federal. They do need to hear from us. It's going to be reminding them that, the people have power. And if we can show them the numbers and react, we have seen them react accordingly sometimes. And so it's just going to, I know it's, I've sent emails like every week too.
Well, it's an election year.
There's,
usually in in an election year, there's more sway because they're scared if they get 500 calls on something. They're like, oh, people are paying attention.
They're reminded of who got them there and who they're working for. Yes. And so, of course, we can't, underestimate the power of people. So really encouraging to keep up with that. And then, of course, just joining a local organization that, has boots on the ground. There's a lot of great grassroots organizations here in the Orlando area, all of them that Linda mentioned, plus Moms Demand Action. If you're interested in joining us, it's just texting 64433. There's actions they can give you on even just making it as simple as sending a text, and then they'll help facilitate that communication to your elected officials, usually federally and stuff. They have capabilities to help do that on different platforms. And right now we're in the big support group of trying to get the the Democratic demands for ICE to make some changes with how they operate. And so, every time we can contact them, and anytime you can give that time, money, or resources to local organizations, it makes a big help.
And then Laura and I do a lot of tabling together with League of Women Voters and Moms Demand, and we give out gun locks and education pieces. I think educating the public is really something that we definitely have to do. We've been shocked at how many gun locks we give out because people do not have it. We also tell them when their kids go to play at somebody else's house, make sure that their guns are locked up. So just the education piece. So joining an organization like Moms Demand Action or League of Women Voters, you can get involved in the tabling events. And we do it with voting rights too. So that's kind of cool. We kind of get together with other committees to get more done.
Well, I mean, in an election year, you also do not really an endorsement per se, but you have the gun sense candidate designation. Maybe you can talk a little bit about why that's an important stamp for people that are interested.
Yes, it is a designation, not quite an endorsement, but it at least gives voters an easy access to see where your local, state, and federal elected or candidates stand on how they want to be elected. They, as a gun sense candidate, are asked to fill out like a questionnaire and kind of go through some communications with every town to get vetted. And once they are get that designation, it is on the website. So you can just go to gunsensvoter.org and have that easy reference before you vote to kind of know who is going to make that commitment to stand for gun violence prevention once they get elected.
Awesome. So in closing, I mean, what are some messages you wish that people could take away from this conversation, particularly?
We just have to keep the fight up. We just really do, because most Americans, definitely most Floridians, want a safe, secure home. And it takes us just doing the right thing and to get out there and help bring others to do it with us.
Yes, having the others do it with us. I think encouraging, more people just to get involved, even if it's just for, an hour of your time per week. There's stuff that you can do with every organization. We need the support and to organize. So then that way, when things happen, when they occur, we already have that mobility and that movement ready to respond. And so, if there's anything you can do is to understand that time that you can give will make a difference, and that we the people still can make a difference.
Well, we're just a couple weeks out from Alex Preddy getting shot and killed in broad daylight by ICE officers, with the excuse that because he was legally carrying a gun on his person during the time of a protest and an ICE watching demonstration, that, the White House is trying to make an excuse and say that he should not have had his gun on his person. And so I think it's really interesting that the gun owners are finally now starting to see how bad the corruption is, and how even the gun lobby is saying, hey, don't say that, because now you're going to restrict me even there at that place. And so I think people are starting to realize, like, okay, our rights are really under attack, and even gun owners are not safe from this administration. And they're using everything they can to, make the unrest look like it is paid for by some foreign government, or that it's not a legitimate, unrest. And so I think gun violence is kind of at the epicenter of all of that, because who gets to own a gun and who gets to use it, and create violence is now being challenged in this legislature.
I think that was one of the favorite things that you said about your training, is the de-escalation part.
Right.
That is so huge, the de-escalation part. There are just so many things you can do before you shoot that gun. And I also agree, because we've been saying for so long, is many times it's more dangerous to carry the gun, because the police or whoever, they don't know what your thoughts are and if you're going to use it or not.
Exactly.
And that was a perfect example.
Exactly.
So,
and that's something that, these trainers at this facility all said, we never wear our gun open because it makes you a target. And open carry is dumb. Even the gun owners say that.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
because it's only ego. That's the only reason why you want to just show it off.
Yeah, every town did give that reasoning, the de-escalation, for one of the reasons why they wanted to go into gun training. Because it is like, why do these people who advocate for gun safety laws actually want to do training? They realize that a lot of the trainings in other states where it was still required to take safety training with firearms, that a lot of them are only kind of endorsed by NRA trainers, and their trainers have a tendency to kind of militarize and really pump up the defense, the personal defense, without talking or really communicating options for de-escalation. And so that is scary. It's very scary, because I've seen a lot of cases where it's just misunderstanding, and it's the lack of communication that causes, these incidents to happen and people to assume the worst of each other. And when you throw firearms into that mix, you see it's deadly. So I think it's very commendable that de-escalation just gets talked about and gets, trained on a higher scale. Because it is just, the access is too easy and it's too quick to be able to pull that trigger. And once you do, there's no undoing it. That's what makes firearms so deadly and so dangerous.
And actively, the gun manufacturers and, the gun lobby are moving legislation to become less and less liable. So I think there's a lot of challenges ahead. So grateful for the work that you both are doing and your entire team, because I know I see that red shirt everywhere. Tell me and tell the audience, what website can people find you, get involved? Any plugs that you have?
Oh, well, we're momsdemandaction.org. If you want to reach out, please do. I mean, we're nationwide. I know we have chapters in every state, and our team just keeps growing. Every year, it seems like the numbers keep going up. Unfortunately, so do the victims of gun violence. When I started, it was 125 people a day. And every time you have to move that number, memorize a new one. Oh, it's 130 now. And unfortunately, they always go in the wrong direction. And so, feel free to join the movement, join any cause and stuff that helps with the prevention.
Yeah. There was one other thing that we didn't mention, and that was our own Maxwell Frost Representative Maxwell Frost did. He was responsible for the gun violence.
Office of Gun Violence Prevention.
Yes, the office of which Trump stopped, but the data shows it worked. It worked. So we want to get that back on there. We definitely do as soon as possible. And I would love for y'all to join the League of Women Voters. You can be a man, you can be binary, anything. We want people with the League of Women Voters, Orange County Gun Violence Prevention Committee.
Yeah, we say mothers and others, and with Moms Demand Action, and same with League of Women Voters. Of course, we need every ally in this fight that we can get. And so we see how gun violence affects everybody. And it's an unfortunate issue that our country really needs to face. And so, if there's any interest in getting involved in the fight, we're here. There's people here.
Yeah, and just to finish that fun little plug with Congressman Frost's Office of Gun Violence, imagine a world where after a shooting, there's a mobilization, just like FEMA would after a hurricane, and there's a place that can dispatch therapists and therapy dogs and make sure that, survivors or, victims have wraparound resources and support that's dispatched by our government as a reaction to show that they actually care and they're not letting cities stay just completely in disrepair. I mean, once your city's traumatized by something like that, it just feels very fractured, very broken. And who's going to be responsible for coming in and fixing that? But I think also the Biden administration was also trying to get rid of ghost guns, if I recall. And some of the challenges there, really trying to track where some of these ghost guns are coming from and how they're getting onto the streets was a proactive measure. There is hope for us to continue to move more policies like that. But I think in an election year, we have to be researching these candidates to find out who is a gun sense candidate, who voted in what way for these bills that are moving through Tallahassee. And by the time session's over, we have to hold them accountable by voting them out or keeping them in office if they were on our side.
Absolutely.
You both should probably run for office. I always say that. Hey, I'm going to vote. I'm going to run one day.
I'm going to help you.
Yeah. I'm going to run one day, but I think we all need all hands on deck at this point because it's so past the point of bad if they're trying to let, even professors carry on campus. It's really, really bad. So we just want to make sure that we're saving lives and getting more involved and being proactive with our legislators. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee. We really appreciate you doing this.
Oh, you're so sweet. And we will be leaving all of the websites that you can check out, all the organizations that you can follow in the description and sending it out in our email blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day. We'll see you at the next one.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you heard today, please comment, subscribe, and share. And visit organizingtovictory.com so that you can learn more about all the ways that we're going to be organizing this year. It is the most important election year of our lives. I know you hear that all the time, but we here at Organizing to Victory hope to not just talk about the issues, but to organize around the issues. So please share, subscribe, and follow us. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.